everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Sooner Girl Sports Pod. And I have a great episode lined up this week and lots going on in the Sooner headlines of the week. So be sure and stay tuned after my interview to listen to that. And this week's interview is with Sarah Roberts. Sarah is the OU softball FCA chaplain, and she has been for 20 years. And we have a great conversation about how she got into doing that and how she met Coach Gasso and their relationship with their families and how close they are and how her relationship with the program and each team of girls have grown and sustained over the years. It's an excellent conversation. I hope that you all enjoy it very much. Sarah is a coach's daughter, a former college athlete herself, and a coach's spouse. So she has a burden and a passion of teaching the word of God to coaches and athletes through FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. She is passionate about FCA because she is a product of it from her young age, where she gave her life to Christ at an FCA camp in Colorado. She began working for FCA as a sports missionary in 2003, serving women and men through speaking, writing, team chapels, Bible studies, and building relationships. In the FCA ministry, she has served in many roles, including Women in Sports Director, NBA, NFL Wives Chaplain, Area Director, and Area Rep. She is in her 20th season of serving the 8-time national champions at the University of Oklahoma, and this is her first with Team USA softball as a chaplain. She is the author of 3 devotion books for athletes, coaches, and coaches' spouses, as well as being a contributing writer for the FCA curriculum and Sports Spectrum magazine. She has been married to high school coach Chris Roberts since 1998. They have 5 kids, 1 daughter-in-law, and 2 grandkids. She enjoys reading, working out, and shoe shopping. Being connected to the Vine of Christ, God has opened the doors to teach at some amazing venues, including at the Women's College World Series, the Women's Final Four, FCA camps, Clemson football, and various churches, events, and retreats. Her passion in teaching the Word of God is not only seeing the lost found, but teaching how to stay faithful in the world. Sarah grew up watching OU athletics. She is Sooner Born and Sooner Bred. Her grandpa was an OU Roughneck back in the day, so Sarah is incredible. I actually met Sarah through FCA. My husband and I were involved in a high school FCA about 12 years ago, and that is how I met her when she was in Oklahoma as a rep and ministering to coaches' wives. I've been connected with her on social media over the years. I reached out to her regarding my podcast and said, hey, I would love to have you on to hear about your ministry and your ties with the university and the softball team, and she was more than willing to come on, so I really appreciate her. I hope you all enjoy this interview with Sarah. We do discuss a devotional book that I have of hers, and I will link that in the show notes as well as post on my social media if you're interested in any of the FCA material that's mentioned on the show. You can also find Sarah on X or Twitter and Instagram. I will link her usernames in the show notes, and we'll tag her on social media in the clips throughout the week. So I hope you all enjoy this amazing episode and interview with Sarah Roberts. So it's funny, I met you, I think, honestly, very briefly, about 13 years ago, probably.
Because it was at an FCA event.
It was. I want to say it was around 2012, maybe 2013-ish. My husband and I were involved with FCA at Dixon High School at the time, and I got connected with you because they wanted someone to make people feel seen, like the coaches' wives. They're often behind the scene and don't get a lot of attention, and they're kind of sometimes getting, you're a coach's wife, kind of get the short end of the stick because your husband is the coach and he's the one everybody is talking to, and you're just kind of standing back trying to hold everything together. And so I had a lady say, hey, do you want to minister to these coaches' wives? And I'm like, well, I don't even know I'm a wife, but my husband's not a coach. I don't know, but I can try. And so it's really funny. I made some connections there with people that I'm still in touch with now, all of these years later. And there were a couple ladies at the time that I previously knew before that. But it's just crazy, how the Lord brings people in your life at a time, and you still keep in touch with them on social media in whatever way. I've had one of the coach's wives. She still, all these years later, is like, that's just meant so much to me when you would text us, because I would just put a reminder, and like once or twice a week I would text like a scripture or, just any kind of encouragement or anything. Or maybe if I knew that they had something going on, I would just shoot them a text and say, I hope this is going okay or whatever. And it's hard because I'm sure like some people, I don't want to come across as being like nosy or pushy or anything like that, but just to let someone know that you care can go a long ways. And so sometimes I may have only gotten a thank you or something like that, and a lot of times that may be all I ever get from that person. But then there's other people that want to open up and tell you all the things, and that's fine too. People are different, and that's kind of hard to remind yourself sometimes. Even me doing this, like some people are more talkative than others, and that's okay. Some people want to open up more, and others just want to tell what they've been asked or whatever.
Right.
So, but anyway, I just feel like back then, I didn't know if I had the tools to minister to somebody. I mean, we were involved in our church with the youth and stuff like that, but as far as like my peers, adults, I was like, I don't know. So anyway, it's just rewarding to make somebody feel seen. And I can't remember for you, I know you've written a couple books. I can't remember if I'd gotten one of your devotionals before I met you or not.
I'm not sure. Well, I don't remember the first one. I would say it was about that time that the first one came out.
I feel like I may have gotten it before.
I don't remember. It's interesting. You talk about ministering to coaches and people, and that's really how I started in FCA in Oklahoma. Was ministering to female coaches, female athletes, and coaches' spouses. And I went into Coach Gasso's office, and I went for the first time, and this is my 20th season with them. And so, I'm gonna basically say how old I am, but I was so young in my early 20s, not having any idea what I was doing, super naive, but just, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, so I'm just gonna walk in and do it. And I walked into Coach Gasso's office, and we all know she can be very intimidating. Like you see her on the field, and she girl is business.
Yes, she is all business.
Walking and being like, I said, gosh, I still remember this and still can't. I don't think I could do it today. But I walked into her office and introduced myself, and I said, everybody who walks through these doors wants something from you. Your players, your administration, your staff, everybody wants something from you. I'm going to be the one person who walks through these doors and gives to you. And
That's
she
awesome.
looked at me with as serious as she could be, and she said, prove it.
Oh!
All right, game on.
Why does that not surprise me?
Like, it was the 2 words, and it was game on from there on. And I literally was pouring into her as much as I could and praying over her, just coming to practices, being a ministry of presence per se, that I don't want anything from you. I really just want to pour into you. And then we started meeting, and I would ask her questions, and we start talking faith, and we start talking her story and her testimony. And then she said one day, she said, I want you to do for me, or I want you to do for my team what you've done for me.
Oh, I love that.
So it literally started with pouring in to a coach that at that point in time could probably have been overlooked.
Absolutely, 20 years ago.
Than what it is now. And so we just built an incredible friendship and relationship, and ended up, talking all things faith and family and marriage, and we became what you call, it talks about in Romans, where it says, I want to encourage your faith, and I want to be encouraged by your faith. So that's really how that whole relationship started. And the crazy thing is, was gracious. It was that 2012 season
Uh-huh.
that we had really just like said, hey, what does it look like for your faith to be public? And it scared Coach Gasso, and she'll tell you that in her testimony, that she was scared. Her relationship with Jesus was private. And I remember telling her, your relationship with Jesus is supposed to be personal, but never private. And we prayed about that whole year. And of course, that was the year that we play Alabama in the national championship in 2012. And before the championship series against Alabama, she says to me, she goes, I think that God is wanting me to give him praise in the press conference. And she was more nervous about that than the actual game. And so we prayed.
Funny?
Isn't that, yeah, we prayed in the hotel, and we and she just knew they were going to win, and that God was calling her in obedience to give praise to him in the press conference. And we ended up losing as the infamous rain game.
Yes.
And Poppy is her husband, and we call him Poppy. And Poppy comes up to me in the stands and says, hey, Patty wants you to address the team right now on the field. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what the heck am I going to say to a team who just lost the national championship?
Right.
So I prayed about as fervently and and fast as I could, as it took me to get down to the field. And I just felt like the only thing I knew to say in that moment was, we've talked about this entire year how to praise God when we win, and we're going to learn how to praise God when we lose, and we're going to show the entire world what that looks like. And so while Alabama's dogpiling, we circled up, and that's where the praying started. Honestly, on the field was not after a win, it was after the loss of a national championship game.
Wow, I love that.
Right there, and she'll tell you that one of the first things she thought after losing was, I don't have to give praise in the, but after that on the field, she knew God was saying, yeah, you're going to have to do it now that you've even lost. You're going to have to. And she mustered all the faith that she could, the size of a mustard seed, and went into that press conference and said, for the first time after losing, it was the first time that we are going to be a program that praises God when we win and praises God when we lose. And she was waiting for everybody to write down, and the phone call to come, and she's like, even cared. And that act of obedience that she followed through, I believe from there on, she was bold with her team. She was bold with the press conferences. She was bold. And do I think it's a coincidence that they win 2013, 2016, 2017, 2021, 22, 23? No, I do not. Not at all.
And that's crazy. I've always kind of wondered where that started, because I couldn't, remember. Just as long as I could remember, they've always done the prayer circle regardless of win or lose. And what is so neat, and so many people too, they always look for that at the end of every game regardless of what happens. But I love it too when the other team comes and joins them, whether that team just got beat or that team just beat us. And so that's so cool to see. And it's almost like a trademark type thing of the team these days, because they've done it for so long, and everyone looks for that at the end of a game, again, whether we won or lost. And I think it's one of those things that, because every person that attends a softball game or watches a softball game, like, they're not all believers, but they all know that that's going to happen, and they all respect it.
Right.
And I mean, I have never once heard any ill will toward that happening, whether somebody personally believes the same way or not, to my knowledge anyway. It's just something that's respected and looked upon to that team or all the teams, since then as respect.
Yeah.
Because it's, again, maybe it's someone that doesn't necessarily believe or practice what they do, but they sure as heck respect Gasso and those players for standing up for what they do believe and speaking out for it and displaying that every single game. And they look for it. People look for it. And that's cool.
That's probably the number one question I get asked a lot is, are all the players on the team believers? And if not, how do you handle that? Mm-hmm. And I've never been a part of a team where they're all believers. Never. Yeah. But here's it's the same thing we talked about earlier. Even though these girls may not be believers as Christians like I am, they know that regardless of whether or not they believe the same thing I believe, I'm there to serve the entire team.
Yes.
So if they need somebody to talk to, I'm there to serve them. I'm there to love them. I'm there to help them feel seen and heard and valued regardless of what they believe. And that's what people I don't think understand is I'm not shoving anything down anybody's throat.
Right.
Coach Gasso is not, we respect, like you talked about respect. Yes, they respect the beliefs, but we also respect that they may not believe. It's a very mutual respect.
Absolutely.
And these are teenage, early 20s girls. And so when they have somebody like Coach Gasso or even Coach Rocha, who both are very strong believers, and myself, who are older women who have done life ahead, and you know what? Sometimes they just want to not feel alone. When they come to us and say, can I just talk to you? Can I just tell you what's going on? They just want somebody to listen to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that they believe or don't believe but they found somebody in myself or in the coaching staff who will listen to them regardless. And that's
priceless.
We're going to love them like Christ, whether or not they believe Christ is Christ or not, because that's what we're called to do.
That's amazing. I think that's an important message because, sometimes, like you said, those players just want somebody to talk to that's not their mom. Sometimes they don't always want to go to their mom or their family or, whatever. And so you ladies, Gasso and Rocha and yourself, you are invested in the program and, you have a proven track record of what you're doing, and that you actually truly genuinely care, and they can see that. And it's like you said, I know that not every person on all these teams have been a believer, but and even though they may not be outspoken about it, I'm sure that there are some that are just maybe have a quieter demeanor about it, and that's fine too. But you see all of the players that are a little more outspoken about it and very open and talking about it during the press conferences, which I think is so cool. But that's making an impact not only on the rest of the team regardless of their beliefs, but just look across softball or just across sports in general. And I think it's become, I don't want to say it's like a popular thing to do because that kind of, takes away the value of it. But I think that people feel more free to be open about that and their beliefs than they have before. And I think that that's important because, again, you have to respect that maybe not everyone has the same beliefs as you, and that's okay. But you have to demonstrate the love of Christ to them. And, I've had people to tell me before, and Lord help me, I am not perfect. I'm very outspoken. I'm very, about everything, regardless. But I also feel like that's one thing that people respect about people, not just myself, but just, people in general, like somebody that speaks their mind, not like in a mean way, but, you never have to wonder where they stand, what they think. Like that person is honest. And that's
Right.
something that I always strive to be. And I've had people tell me, like, this, like, coming from a non believer, like, you have been and shown me more of the love of Christ than some churches have.
Right.
And I used to be in the church for years. And this was coming from someone who is now removed from church and sadly has a valid reason in which to feel that way. But also, it's sad because things happen that turn people away. And I hate that. But also, I'm not going to make that person or any other person like, okay, you're going to come to church with
Right.
me and I'm going to drag them, because I get that they have their reasons why they're not comfortable in these settings. But for somebody to tell me, you showed me the love of Christ, well, I can't ask for any more than that, because
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. And that's what those girls are doing. Alyssa Brito comes to mind when I think of somebody that's loud about it, and Riley Boone too. But like, those girls are very loud and proud about it, and I'm sure many people could say the same things about them. But also just not being judgy of the people that are different and continuing to show them that love. And you're
Right.
making a difference in their life, whether we ever see it or not sometimes. And I think that's hard to remember, but you've invested a lot over the years and you've seen a lot of return, but also there may be some that we don't ever see here on earth too. And sometimes that's hard to remember, but again, like, we're just supposed to show the love of Christ. And I think it's cool that, these girls have a platform in which to do
Right.
it. And they're being watched and they're
Well,
being seen
and
and looked up to.
if you talk to any girls who have been with the program for quite a while, like this past senior class, there's definitely things they have heard from me over and over and over, including like the thing that they probably, if they've heard it once, they've heard it a million times, is they were given these gifts not to build themselves a pedestal
Yes.
for them,
Yes.
but for a platform for God.
And that, yes.
We have said that. Are you focusing on building a pedestal for you or a platform for the Lord? This is, and like, I'll tell you, this year right now, I don't know, I felt, the Lord leading me in this way is because, 15 out of the 20 are brand new girls.
Yes.
And they've got a lot of pressure and they've got a lot of, I've got to make a name for myself. And because of all the people that they're following who had names for themselves and
Yes.
everything. So what we have done this year is every single chapel so far has been on somebody who made an impact in scripture that are nameless.
Oh, I love that.
But they're not faithless. So
Yes.
we've done this entire chapel series. It's been called Nameless, and we've studied people in the Bible who we may never know their name,
That's
but
so
we
cool.
can be encouraged by their faith, because maybe, just maybe, our name isn't what's supposed to be remembered, but our faith. And so
Oh, I love that.
we've done the Shunammite woman. We've done the woman at the well. We've done the little boy with 2 fish and 5 loaves. We're doing the thief on the cross this weekend for Easter.
That's good. Yeah.
So we're doing nameless so that they don't feel the pressure to make a name for themselves. They just have to surrender to the name above all names.
That's really good.
That's what we're doing this year. It's been good. I get, Larissa, after every World Series, people will email me or message me on social media and say, "Hey, I want to do what you do. I want to do what you do. You've got the best job in the world." And again, it's the glory that they're seeing.
Right.
But it's not the story really behind. And because what people don't see and what people don't know is 20 years ago, our very first Bible study or chapel we ever had, nobody came.
Oh, wow.
Nobody came. And people don't know that part.
Yeah, right?
And Poppy said, "I'll make tamales for anybody who will come." And we got 2. And the first 2 was Lindsay Vandeveer Mudgett
Okay, yes.
and Flores.
Yes.
And met with those 2 and they came literally for
The tamales.
tamales.
I mean,
And that's literally how it started. And seeing, and there's so many things about so many stories. And I remember being it was maybe about year 3 or 4, and I was kind of venting to my husband, and I was like, man, I'm just not seeing the fruit. Like, I feel like they're using chapel as kind of a rabbit's foot. Maybe they're they're in a slump, and they're like, okay, maybe I'll try this to get me out of the slump, and they're using God as maybe a transactional and not a transformational thing. And it was so frustrating. And that was a few years into it. And I was talking to my husband about it, and sometimes he just drops things of wisdom. I mean, he's a coach, and so he will hit you hard real fast. And he looked at me and he said, if you are going to take all the blame for the losses, you're more likely to take all the credit for the wins. Ooh. You are supposed to be faithful to the call, but you are focused on the fruit, and you need to be faithful. And he was so right. And I was like, you know what? My role is to keep teaching the word of God, and God will bring about the fruit. God will draw them to him. God will do it. And so, I still remember our first baptism, and I still remember the first call that I got from a player who was literally walking across the campus, and she called me and she goes, I'm supposed to give my life to Christ right now. And I'm like, well, I can be there in 20 minutes, or I can do it right here on the phone. And she goes, I'm sitting on a bench, do it right here. And so we did it right there on the phone while she sat there in the middle of the bench. And
that's awesome.
And I mean, that was probably 18 or maybe 15 years ago. So we've just seen the Lord work. That's what people don't know is it wasn't easy. It's been literally 20 years of sowing seeds. And some of them, like you said, we may never know if there is fruit, and I may never fully know. And guess what? I'm not supposed to know.
Right.
I trust that God does, and that he brings about fruit. I have to be faithful in teaching the word. That's it.
That is so true. And that's just a good reminder in life in general for anybody, because there's so many things that we're called to do that it takes time to start seeing things flourish. Again, some things we may never see the full extent of, but as long as we know that God has called us to do what we're doing, and that's what we got to do. We just got to keep going.
That's what I tell people. I am like, if you love what I do, and that's fantastic, you have to be willing to be able to do what I do when nobody is coming, and not just when everybody is.
And that's hard.
That's hard.
That's hard.
Because I had no idea then what would happen now.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That's what I think has been so good of the Lord has taken not just the program on a journey, he's taken me on a journey. He's taken Coach Gasso on a journey. And the journey is that the story is he's the center of it. He always will be. It is no one person on the team. It is no coaching staff on the team. It's no chaplain on the team. At some point in time, I'm not going to be doing this, and there's going to be another person that's coming in. And guess what? The same God that was with us now is the same God that's going to be with them down the road. He is the story. And that's what we want people to remember and reminded. And, with all of I know it's going around right now that it's kind of a big thing that Ohio State football had a cross on the inside of their rings, and which is incredible, and that's super awesome. But I'm not gonna lie, we have Jesus on the side walking on water on one of the rings.
Well, that's cool.
There's things that, like, there's battle on boast about the Lord on one of the rings. There is the boat and Jesus walking on water, saying, get out of the boat, walking on.
Remember that one?
There is the hands raised from Exodus chapter 17 with Moses and Aaron and Hur and the battle of Joshua, that hands raised is on this past year's. Like, scripture is all over these rings, and it's, like you said, it's quote unquote maybe popular, but really it's just taboo. And I am so proud of these girls because they were putting these things on the rings when it wasn't popular. It wasn't, like, not knowing, but they wanted this to be a reminder, because we talk a lot about 12 stone moments, and they know this, and we actually just did this for the first time in our first meeting with USA Softball, was we had the 12 stone moment, which is a story in scripture when Joshua is leading the Israelites into the promised land, and they were about to face Jericho to take over the promised land, but God parted the Jordan River. And that's the less talked about parting of waters. But after God parted the water, Joshua said, you know what? We're going to pile up 12 stones in remembering of what God did in preparation for what he's about to do. And so we actually just did that with softball for the first time a couple weeks ago. Is we had everybody in there talk about, what is a 12 stone moment for you? Personally, professionally, a moment in your life that you knew that God was a part of it. And this wasn't with the team, this is with the staff.
Okay.
And, we got to remember where we had seen God move in our lives and on teams in the past.
That's
and
cool.
Then we just prayed. We just prayed and prayed about what he was going to do on this team next. And so, these are 12 stone moments that they'll never forget, and they just happen to put them on rings.
That's so cool. I don't know what's all on all of the rings, so that's really cool to hear that. I've seen like a little replica of the rings and stuff, and they're so amazing. I can't imagine having 4 of them. Like, those girls that have 4 rings, like, it's just incredible. Again, just not even just the rings and the wins and the championships, but just having those scripture memories embedded in each of those rings. That is really cool.
It's crazy that they don't have to give me a ring, but they do. And do every time. And so I have a little box here on my desk, and I've got 7 national championship rings.
That's
and
incredible.
Here is the crazy thing. I never played softball. I played college basketball and really wasn't great at that. I sat the bench really well. There was nothing in my gifts, in my talents, in myself that was able to be part of a team that would have these rings. There was nothing that I have that was able to be part, and I use this to share the gospel a lot, because it was literally the blood, sweat, and tears of somebody else that I am able to have any of those rings. And that is the gospel. Like, I'm not good enough. I need Christ. And I wasn't good enough. So I think that has been super awesome to be able to share with people those rings, because obviously I don't wear them, but I use them to share the gospel. So that's always fun.
That's really cool what you were saying about, your rings, and like, you never played softball, but you earned it behind the scenes, again, investing in those girls and making a difference. And that's super cool.
Yeah, I use those rings to share the gospel, because it was, I only have those rings because of what somebody else did.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was their sweat. It was their tears. It was their work that I have that. And I use those rings a lot to share that gospel, because there was nothing in my power that makes me good enough to
have them
experience heaven. It was the blood, sweat, and tears of somebody else in Christ. And so it's always I take them as a powerful visual of
that's cool.
How to share the gospel, because that is the good
perfect
news.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect analogy. Like you said, you personally did not physically do anything to earn those.
Yeah.
So
and I couldn't. I'm not good enough. Like I'm not good enough in my talents to do that, obviously. So it's always a good way to share the gospel in that.
That's really cool. I love that. So I did not know, you mentioned a second ago about being involved with Team USA, and I didn't even think about that with Coach Gasso coaching them into the Olympics. So that's really cool that you're involved in
Yes.
that.
Yes, we're super excited,
That's
and
amazing.
we have already, like I said, we've already had a first meeting, and the praying has begun, and
That's incredible.
I'm super excited for this opportunity of how God may use softball to take his name to the world like this.
Absolutely.
So we're super excited about what's coming up next for sure.
That's really cool. I did see some photos. I saw one of Kinsey and
TRA.
maybe TR. I can't
Yeah.
remember who else. There were just like 3 or 4 photos, and Coach Gasso, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is just the coolest thing. And just for her to lead that team, and obviously there's no one better, regardless of my love for OU, which I'm very thankful that she's ours. But I
Yes.
mean, no one can deny that she's an incredible coach, and so that was an excellent pick for them. And so I'm excited
Oh, we're so excited.
for
We're
that.
so
and
excited.
and the Olympics in or softball in Oklahoma City for the Olympics is just, who would have ever thought, right?
I'm not gonna lie. I am not gonna lie. I'm not knocking Oklahoma City. I think it's one of my favorite cities. But the fact that the one time that we are with the USA softball and the one time the Olympics that we will be a part of is in Oklahoma City.
Right?
It's
And you're
very
like,
different
okay,
than Japan or Paris or Brazil.
that's so true.
I mean, I love you, Oklahoma City, but
That's hilarious.
that was
That's funny. I know there's been a lot of mixed feelings. Of course, it's amazing for Oklahoma and Oklahoma
100%.
City, all the things. Like, it's fantastic. And I'm glad because I will go. You know, I can go down the road a
Yes,
couple of hours.
yes,
But I know there's been a lot of mixed feelings as far as the teams being separated from the rest of the Olympics and just all the things. And I'm sure that all of those feelings are valid, especially coming from former Olympians. You know, they have their opinions. But yeah, it is funny that, of course, it's going to be in the backyard, basically. And you're just like, okay, yeah, it couldn't have been somewhere cool. But
but
anyway,
here's the thing: the people of Oklahoma City are going to welcome them with
oh,
open
absolutely.
arms. They are going to feel loved. They are going to feel so supported, and it's going to be awesome. And to
Oh,
be
it will.
honest with you, like this summer we go to China for the World Cup, so
Oh,
it's
yes.
not like we're
Yeah.
not going to be going any places over the next 4 years. There's
But
definitely
still,
places
yeah.
that we're gonna go, and so it's going to be. It's I don't know if I got to go to the Olympics my senior year in high school.
Oh,
My
cool.
parents took me. It was my senior present, my
Uh
senior
huh.
year present, and it was here in Atlanta.
Okay, yeah.
And I am telling you, the Olympics, I don't care where it is,
Hmm.
the Olympic spirit is absolutely incredible. There's
I can't
nothing
wait. It's so cool.
there's nothing like the Olympics. I don't care where it is. It's going to be
Hmm.
incredible. And I'm excited that Oklahoma is going to experience
Play
the
a part of
Olympics
it.
with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, it'll be cool. And I mean, your parents are still in the Norman area,
That
correct?
they
Yeah.
are my sister lives in Norman.
Oh, okay.
So yes, my sister lives there, and my parents actually just moved a couple years ago to Sooner Station, which is
I
in
was gonna say, do they live?
they
Okay.
live, and this is one of those. This is why I just love Coach Gasso so much, and one of the things is she goes by and sees my parents. She sends me selfies with them.
Oh,
She gives them um, she gives them tickets to every single home game.
I love that.
She loves them, and I will be forever grateful. My mom has dementia, and
Oh.
it's just, and even before the World Series, the past
Hmm.
couple years, they have taken the team to, on their way to the World Series, they take them to Sooner Station and let
Yes.
everybody sign autographs. And I'm just, like I said, I will continue traveling back and forth because of my relationship with Coach Gasso and what her and Poppy have done for our family, and I will be forever grateful.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I have seen where the girls have gone out there before. I'm like, okay, when I get old, like I'm coming up there. I'm living.
It is a shout out to Sooner Station. It is absolutely incredible. They take such great care. They
Yes.
love on them so well, and it's an incredible place. I'm so thankful my parents are there.
That's amazing. That's really good to hear. I've heard nothing but good about it. And for you being so far away from them, it's nice, like you said, to know that they're taken care of at an excellent facility, but also having Coach Gasso to come by and see. That's just so cool. That's
Yeah.
a special relationship that you have there with her and her with your parents. And that's super cool.
It's awesome. I'm very
And so
thankful.
they still come to a lot of softball games.
They send me their little pictures every single
love
time
it.
they go to the softball game, and they love it, and it's so awesome. I'm so grateful.
That's really cool. Well, like I said, OU sports is very near and dear to my heart, and it's cool to see what you're doing and the impact that you've made on Coach Gasso, obviously, over the years, and all of these teams, because I know that you've made an impact on them. And it's important, too, to see what you're doing, because even though they have the talent to play softball and do what they've done, there's going to come a time when they can't do that anymore.
Right.
And some sooner than later. And I'm so thankful. I don't know if you know Tina Floyd very
Yeah.
well. So
I've sat with her at numerous World Series.
okay, perfect. Well, I just got acquainted with her. I actually had her on an episode a couple months ago. I had her and Amber Flores. But they are so awesome, the two of them. But I just love what they're doing with softball as a sport and with Oklahoma City and trying to grow that. And I know they have a big vision, going forward. But I think it started out well for them. And I love supporting the team and going out. But I think that for those girls, like, softball has been their lives for their whole lives. And if they have the ability and capability to continue to play, I think that's great. There'll be a time when they don't anymore, and there's more to life than that. And
Right.
whether they become a coach or whatever, some part of their softball playing days as an athlete is going to be gone. And to have a foundation to go back to and think about, and that's what you're teaching them, and that's what you need in life, because there's chapters of our lives. Even for us, you finish a chapter of life in college or high school, whatever, and you have to move on to the next chapter. And to have a foundation that is solid for each chapter of life is very important. And for people like us, like, we know that, we recognize that, because we've grown up with that, and to be able to instill that in someone else is really cool. And so I think it's important what you're doing, and I love what you're doing, and I think you're definitely making a difference. So
Well,
I was
thank you.
excited to hear all about it, because I truly had no idea how it all came about. Like, I didn't know you just walked into Patty's office, and so that's really cool that you did that. And now look, all these years later, what all has happened. So, I think about Grace Lyons. She is by far one of the best softball players ever, and probably, one of the best shortstops ever at OU for sure. And now she's married and has a baby, a new baby. And again, her softball playing days are behind her, and the legacy she left will never change. But also, she's one of those that has been forever outspoken about her faith. And she's involved with FCA now, correct?
So she is. She's on staff with FCA in the Dallas area, in the Frisco area, and
That's awesome.
like super excited. And I think I love seeing them beyond, right? So
Yes.
like she was Jeannie Murphy. Like, she's the one I was telling you about that called me from walking across, and now
Okay.
she is the director of softball operations at Clemson.
Oh
And
my gosh, how
so
cool.
I do a Zoom Bible study for college female coaches. And so she's on there. Sam Ricketts at Mississippi
Yes.
State. So they were in Bible study with me early on, and they're still in Bible study with me as coaches and
That's so cool.
at Mississippi State. And then like I talk to Sid Romero
Huh?
probably every other week and praying with her as a coach at
Mm-hmm.
Oregon. And so it goes beyond like for it, and I'm so thankful. Like I
Mm-hmm.
got a message from Jana Johns not too long ago
Yes.
that she is married and has a baby, and she is teaching and is the FCA leader at her high school.
Oh,
And
I
so
love
I
it.
just like I get so excited when they
That's
have
cool.
taken the Lord to wherever they
Mm-hmm.
are, whether it's the coaching world, director of operations world, or teaching
Mm-hmm.
and coaching in high school.
That's
And
incredible.
it's been awesome. It's been fun.
That's really cool to see. How long have you guys been in Atlanta? I feel like it's been a
Eight
little
years.
while. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Oh my
So eight
gosh.
8 years. And
Yeah. Well, I know that there's still so many people here in Oklahoma that know who you are or like know your impact. So you've definitely left an imprint here in Oklahoma for sure, and still are,
well,
obviously.
I'm
But
an Oklahoma girl through and through. Oklahoma is home. It always will be. No matter where I live, my heart will always be in Oklahoma. I am Oklahoma through and through.
that's awesome. Well, I don't want to let you go without talking a little bit about your family because I know, your husband's a coach and your kids. I mean, I feel like I kind of know them just from watching them grow up on social media. It's one of those things where I feel like, oh, I'm that old lady now that knows somebody's kids from social media and I've never met them in my life.
Oh,
But yeah,
yes.
so tell me a little bit about like your husband's a coach and your kids. Like, tell me kind of what all they're all up to.
Yeah. So my husband is a coach here in the Atlanta metro area. We live just south of Atlanta, and he coaches football and basketball at our high school here, Whitewater High School, and where all my kids have attended. And you guys are getting in on some inside news
Ooh.
because I know. Our oldest, he was one of my husband's football players when we lived in Oklahoma.
Uh huh.
And he had lost both of his parents, and we got him when he was 16, and we were
Oh.
in the will to get him as his coach when they
Oh.
passed away. And that's a whole nother story, and you can
Mm-hmm.
actually, I don't know if you remember that was, we went on the NFL on the Today Show. We won this contest with the NFL, went to the
I
Super Bowl.
yes, I do remember that.
And so, yeah, that was a whole thing. But he is married, is a lawyer in Denver now. And right before they have our first two grandbabies. And right before I got on this podcast with you, we got the message they were headed to the hospital for their
Oh,
third. So
yay!
we're
That's
waiting
exciting.
for the new grandbaby to be born, hopefully today.
Oh, yay!
Yeah, we're excited for that. And then we have one who is 20, and he actually went to the University of Alabama, but he is with the Alabama National Guard, and he got called for a deployment, so he is deployed right now. And so we haven't seen him in 7 months.
Oh my goodness.
My heart, but he's doing awesome. He is doing awesome.
Good, good.
And then we have a senior in high school, Chloe,
Chloe.
who
Mm-hmm.
is she signed to play soccer at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee,
Oh, good. Okay, yes.
in between Nashville and Memphis, and she wants to go into ministry, and so we're super excited for her.
That's
And
awesome.
we have a freshman who is a freshman in high school here, and then we have and his name is Case and does all things sports. And then we have Cruz, who we adopted. We got him at 5 years old, and we have adopted him since, and he is in the 8th grade.
Wow. You
So
really
yeah,
do
woo,
have a good variety to keep you busy.
it is. People ask me all the time, "How do you do it all?" And I say, sometimes not very well. Like it's just the honest truth.
Well, I think we can all say that to an extent, but I definitely think you take it to the next level because holy smokes.
It's a lot, and they keep us busy for sure. But you know
I bet
what?
they
I think
do.
we enjoy the chaos.
I understand that too. You kind of get used to it a little bit and then you just keep adding to it.
Yep.
Well, I can't thank you enough for giving me some time of your busy schedule to tell me all the things, and it was incredible to hear. And I love keeping up with you on social media and seeing all that you do and being a part of course, OU softball because it's special to me. But just in general, it's always good to see the Lord blessing people and sharing the Lord with everyone around you and making a difference because that's what you're doing. And I love it. I love it. So
Well, thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thank you.
you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I hope you all enjoyed that awesome interview with sweet Sarah Roberts of FCA, the chaplain of OU softball. She is an incredible person, an incredible woman, and I am so thankful to still have her as a part of Oklahoma and, of course, our softball team. So thank you again to Sarah for joining the show this week. Y'all, I'm filming this on Sunday afternoon, the 27th at 6:30. So I just wrapped up watching the softball Texas series where OU swept Texas this weekend. It was incredible weekend, and so I'm still on a high from that. So we're going to kick off the Sooner headlines of the week by talking about some OU softball. Friday night, I was there at the game at Loves Field, and it was an incredible atmosphere. The attendance that night was 87, and at that time, it was the Loves Field attendance record for the regular season there in Norman, and it was loud. It was an incredible atmosphere, and I am not one for booing people. I don't like to boo players, other teams, coaches. I just truly think it's a disrespectful thing to do. But I do have one exception for now, and that is Mike White. And for those of you who don't know, okay, Mike White is the head coach of Texas softball, and he's been there since 2018. And over the course of that time, he has said some pretty crazy stuff about Patty Gasso, just insinuating negative things about the program and insinuating that most recently that she cheats. And that actually took place in a press conference. I believe it was a couple of years ago before the Women's College World Series. So as you can imagine, Sooner fans have had a heyday with that every time that they get an opportunity. So Mike has been greeted with many chants of boos throughout the years, but I have not heard many like what I heard at Loves Field the other night. It was so loud, and from what I could tell, I was watching from home on Saturday and Sunday for game 2 and 3 of the series. It sounded the same. It sounded so loud in there. I do have friends that were there throughout the weekend, and they echoed that was really what was happening. It was so loud. He was getting booed, and it was just incredible, y'all. Like, I'm not lying. Like, again, I do not encourage booing. I do not encourage being disrespectful to other teams or players, but I do make this exception. And again, Mike White is not a classy dude. And props to my friend Tyler McComas. I always call him the dork because that is what Tyler always refers to him as, is that dork, Mike White. And that's just what I refer to him as. And, honestly, that's a nice name. I'm sure we all have more names we would like to call him, but he has not been very classy over the years. Like, it was just a couple of years ago. I'm sure most of you saw a photo going around social media. I think I posted it on my stories for Sooner Girl Pod on Instagram and Facebook, or maybe on Twitter, of Mike White when he flipped off the crowd at the Big 12 tournament just a couple of years ago as he was getting ejected. I mean, listen, I'm not trying to talk bad about a school, a team, a player, a coach, a program, any of that. It's just not the thing to do. But y'all, when the proof is in the pudding, so to speak, like, you just can't ignore it. And he has shown repeatedly that he is not a classy guy. He's just not. Who flips off a crowd of people during a tournament at Hall of Fame Park? It's not okay. It's not okay. I don't know how he recruits people to play for him. And they have a pretty talented team. And I will say this before I forget, but their team coming into Norman this year, it's really funny. Our team, we lost 2/3 of our team last year to graduation, and we lost a couple to a portal, but we had 11 graduate, I believe, and then we lost 2 or 3 to the portal, so we lost about 14 players from last year's roster to this year, and we still whooped up on Texas. And back to my original point, that roster that Mike White brought into Norman this weekend is 98% the same. He only lost a couple of players from the roster last year, and so he's probably thinking, hey, this is one of my better chances to get a hold of Oklahoma softball and really give him a whooping, and it did not happen. He's thinking, Gasso's got a young team, this is a rebuild year, yada yada, and a lot of us were thinking it. I don't think anybody really is sitting here thinking that we were going to sweep Texas, if we're being honest. I think he thought this was his shot, and it wasn't. So I'm sure he got humbled even more this weekend in Norman, thinking, oh crap, she has reloaded this roster, reloaded this program, and now I got to deal with these people for another 2 to 3 years. And it's really comical, if we're being honest. But for him to come into Norman with basically the same team that has beaten us a game or two here and there over the years, he had to been feeling pretty good. Other than coming into Norman, obviously it's hard to win on the road, but I'm sure he thought that he was going to at least take a game or two from us. He didn't. Friday night score, Oklahoma 7, Texas 6. Saturday, Oklahoma 7, Texas 2. And the Sunday final score was Oklahoma 9, Texas 8. Now, if you were watching any of these games, you may think, we should have run-rolled them on Friday. We could have run-rolled them on Sunday. Yeah, we could have. Perhaps we should have. But Texas had every opportunity to win the Sunday game. They were basically handed the game on a silver platter at one point. They were down 8 runs in the 4th inning. And they came all the way back and tied the game. And we scored 1 run, I believe in the 6th, to get that 1-run lead. We shut them down in the top of the 7th, and the game was over. So I thought when I was there Friday night, we were going to run-roll them. And we didn't. They ended up scoring 5 runs in the 3rd, I believe, and really kind of gave us all we could take. But the thing is, we responded. Texas, we took a good lead. The bats came out swinging. I think if you listen to last week's episode with DJ Sanchez, she's a former All-American pitcher at OU. She knows what it's like to play against Texas. She's an on-air color analyst for Sooner Sports Properties and with our friend Chris Plank. She's on the air. She watches a lot of games. She calls a lot of games. She knows what she's talking about. She said, you can go back and pick any game with Texas, and they have a swagger about them. And she hates to use that word, she said, and I get it. But that swag that they have, that confidence that they have, normally in the dugout with an opposing team, even on the road, they don't have that when they play Oklahoma. And they don't. Over the last few years, even in the World Series, in the postseason, anywhere, they don't have that swag when they play Oklahoma, and they certainly did not bring it to Norman this weekend. And again, back to Friday, Love's Field attendance 45,87. That was the single game record at the time, but again, we talked about it last week, me and DJ. They didn't have that swagger. They looked defeated. They looked defeated pretty early on in the game on Friday. They were able to come back and score those runs. But even after they scored those runs and they were within a couple of runs with us Friday night, they still looked defeated. They didn't have that oomph in the dugout over there that they need to come out and beat Oklahoma. It was so loud in that stadium. And every time Mike White made that trip from the dugout to third base, he got booed. And it was loud. It was so loud. And, I know that they didn't like that. There's no way they liked that. And so for them to come all the way back on Friday and to still get defeated, and then again Sunday come all the way back and still get defeated, they had every opportunity to take a game from us, and they didn't do it. So it's just funny. Our OU hate for Texas. I talked with Whitney Messy, who she will be on an episode in a couple of weeks. She's an assistant turf manager, and she just so happens to take care of the softball field. But she was telling me, as someone who's not from Oklahoma or Texas, as she came to Oklahoma, one thing that she thought was funny is that she will see cars on campus that are brand new, don't have a tag on them, don't have a sticker, don't have anything. But they will have a horns down decal on the car before anything else is on there. And if that honestly doesn't sum up our hatred for Texas, I don't know what does. But, in their chant song, they also chant beat OU. So it's just par for the course. It's just that relationship that the two universities have. I think we deep down have some sort of maybe respect for each other, so to speak, but we are rivals and nothing will ever change that. But Friday night, Gabby and Alana were incredible in the game. They were huge difference makers and getting that momentum back and keeping the crowd going and just keeping the team rolling. Saturday, Kirsten Deal in the circle. Oh my goodness, you guys. I know a lot of people have had their doubts about Kirsten Deal, and I'm not going to lie. There's times I'm like, oh geez, I feel like I wish I had more confidence in her than I do. But she has proven several times this season that we can trust her. She has. She proved it in the Tennessee series just a couple of weeks ago. She came out Saturday and was lights out against Texas. That is a good offensive team. Those bats wake up. She kept them quiet. Kirsten Deal. It was amazing. She had a one-hit shutout through 6 innings pitched on Saturday against Texas. Ella Parker had a home run on Saturday. Abby Dayton had 3 home runs. Nellie McEnroe-Marinas had a 2-run home run. It was just incredible. The Sunday game, Vaughn. This was the big deal on Sunday. Their pitcher, Tegan Cavan, she pitched 36 first inning pitches. 36. In comparison, Ella Smith had 6 pitches in the first inning. And that was Cavan's most pitches in an inning in her entire career at Texas until the second inning, when she had 42 pitches. And Bella Smith, again, she threw 6 pitches in the first inning. She pitched 3 great innings before she was pulled. She went through the whole lineup, and they did not score a run. It was incredible. As soon as Bella was pulled, we went through sort of a pitching carousel, so to speak, and we blew our 8-0 lead. And Texas had every opportunity to come back and win that game, and they didn't, because you responded. We responded, and it's hard to sit here and think we had that big lead, 8-0. We were in run rule territory. We had 1 inning and a half left to play before we could have run ruled them, and that's incredible. And then Patty pulls Bella, puts in Audrey Lowry. We get in a bind. Here comes Peyton Monticelli. Didn't get any better. So, okay. And then here we go with Sam Landry, who stopped the bleeding and got the job done through 7, and we were able to pull the game out on Sunday. And I know a lot of people have feelings, and I'm not saying I don't have questions or thoughts about the situation on Sunday, but I was listening to my friend Plank and DJ on the radio, and they were giving a lot of insight, especially DJ, coming from someone who has been in the circle with Patty Gasso as a coach, and just her experience and her own coaching experience about why did Patty do this? Why would Patty pull Bella from the circle when we had an 8-0 lead and we were so close to closing this deal? We just had to get a couple more innings out of her, go through the lineup again, and call it good. Well, so it's very important. Texas is a top 5 team, and it's very important that our pitching staff, the whole pitching staff, get the opportunity to be in the circle against a top 5 team, against those talent at the plate, those batters behind the plate, and they need that experience. And even if it's only for a half of an inning or a couple of batters or whatever, we need to see what they're made of. And they need a chance to try to get out of the binds that they've created, the messes that they've made for themselves. They need that time. But Patty realized pretty quick, okay, it's time to pull the plug. Let's, go down the roster. But we have a good pitching staff. And by rotating those pitchers in and out of that game, it proved that she trusts those girls to get the job done against a top 5 team. Now, granted, we're not guaranteed a regional in Norman or a supers in Norman. More than likely, we're going to get, if we get the job done in Gainesville next weekend, we will host a regional in Norman. So having that home field advantage and that crowd and being loud is a big factor. Going into supers, again, if we take care of business in regionals, we should be able to host a super to again have that plus of a home crowd. But even going to the World Series, it's technically like a home field advantage for us. It's going to be loud. It's a big crowd. It's even bigger than the Bedlam crowd that they played in front of. It's going to be the biggest crowd that a lot of those girls have played in front of ever in their entire lives at the College World Series. If we do make it to Oklahoma City, is going to be loud. And those girls have got to get used to playing. Now, granted, Kirsten Deal, Peyton Monticelli, they have the experience from being at the Women's College World Series. Peyton last year, and then Kirsten's been there. This will be her 3rd year if we make it. So they have that experience. But Sam Landry is our ace. Bella Smith is a transfer. Audrey Lowry is a freshman. They don't have experience in Oklahoma City. They don't have experience in the postseason and hosting that and dealing with the regionals and supers and all that. And it's very important that they get that experience while they can. And we had that little cushion with the 8-run lead on Sunday where Patty felt comfortable giving them an opportunity to see what they had in the circle. And she did. So, and how she goes forward with that information and how the girls respond and all of that, that is not our job. That is why Patty is the GOAT. I'm not questioning her. I never did. I was just curious, maybe as her thinking of why we wanted to blow an 8-0 lead. Which, not that she put them out there intending for us to blow an 8-0 lead, but again, she wanted them with the cushion that we had to get some experience against those hitters, those talented offense of a top 5 Texas team, and they got it. So she got to see what she needed to see, and those girls got to experience it, and there's that. So again, Sunday's game broke the single game record at Love's Field at 4,609. So the Friday record only lasted 48 hours. So that's incredible. Patty gave several shout outs in the post-game pressers over the weekend to the crowd for showing up, for being loud, and boy did they ever. The series record attendance at Love's this weekend was 13,734. Incredible. So as of right now, including when Mike White was coaching at Oregon, which he was there before he came to Texas in 2018, Patty Gasso is 24-5 against Mike White, and the Texas record is 22-3. Patty Gasso owns Mike White. And thank you to my friend Chris Plank for that stat because he read it off on the post game the other night. I didn't get it jotted down in time, so I shot him a text and he sent me that over. But that is just an incredible stat for Patty Gasso against Mike White. Just truly incredible. I do want to give a shout out to Caitlin Fournier. She was on the show a couple of months ago. She is amazing behind the scenes, all the stuff and the music, the lights, just the fan engagement and the whole experience for softball, football, women's gymnastics. That's Caitlin Fournier. You should go back and listen to my episode with her. But Plank gave her a shout out this weekend, and also to the grounds crew, which shout out to my girl Whitney Messy that I mentioned just shortly ago. Her episode will drop on May the 7th. But those people worked their tails off this weekend to get that field ready. It has been a monsoon in the state of Oklahoma, in Norman this week, and they got it done. They got everything organized. The game got moved to later in the day on Saturday. The grounds crew were able to get it done. Caitlin was able to get all of the stuff done. And those people are incredible. And side note, that is the kind of people that I love having on my show. Those people are difference makers in Oklahoma athletics, and they often get overlooked because they're behind the scenes. But they need to be recognized. They need to be included. And I am so thankful to have had Caitlin on the show and to be hosting Whitney in just a couple of weeks. And I highly encourage you to listen to those shows because it is so cool to hear all the behind the scenes stuff and how things happen when we just show up and take it for granted that these games are these huge successes. And it's incredible, but people are putting in the work. And I want to hear all about it, and I know you do too. So I hope you go back and listen to Caitlin's episode from back in March, and then listen to Whitney's episode in a couple of weeks. So OU softball, back on track. We're 42-5, 16-5 in the SEC. We're heading to Florida for a 3-game set. We have a 2-game lead in the SEC. We need to go to Gainesville and take care of business. It is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. So this episode drops on Wednesday. The series starts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We need to win at least 2 of those games. We need to clinch the series in Gainesville, so tune in for that this coming week. Also, we are 29-1 when we score first in a game. That stat's courtesy of my buddy Chris Plank as well. So 29-1 when we score first. So the goal when we get to Gainesville is to get on the base. Get on the base, score a run. If we score first, it's always a good sign. So fingers crossed for our Sooners in Gainesville next weekend. I do want to read a couple stats courtesy of Seth Oliveras on Twitter. This is the 2025 Oklahoma softball team by the numbers through week 12, which is at the conclusion of Sunday's series against Texas. 45-2, 16-5 in the SEC. 15-4 versus top 5 teams. First in the SEC. 18 run rules. 369 runs scored. 133 runs allowed. 90 home runs. 400 hits. 271 walks. 13 shutouts. 28 errors. 274 Ks through 301 innings by our pitchers. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay, let's move on to football. It's been an active week between the NFL draft and the portal and all the things. We nabbed a defensive lineman. Got his pronunciation off Twitter. So Ricky Lolehea from Utah State. I apologize, Ricky, if I said that wrong. That was the pronunciation guide that I saw. But I'm very excited to see that we got a new defensive player from the portal that will add some depth to our roster. We also got the UTSA kicker transfer, Tate Sandel. He signed with Oklahoma over the weekend. We did lose Gavin Sawchuk to the portal, which I'm very sad about. I do think Gavin is very talented. He's had a lot of great plays in his career at Oklahoma, but our running back room is pretty thick, and we nabbed another running back in the portal, Jay Knott, just last week. So I'm sure he felt that it was getting a little too full in there, and someone was going to depart, and unfortunately that fell on Gavin Sawchuk. But to the NFL draft, good news for our boys. We had 2 Sooners drafted in the 4th round. Danny Stutzman went to the Saints, and Billy Bowman went to the Falcons. Ethan Downs is an undrafted free agent to Jacksonville. Dejon Terry to the Rams. Tarquin to the Panthers, and Trace Ford to the Giants. I do believe there were some others as well that signed as undrafted free agents, so you can check social media for that. And this is just another plug to follow me on social media at Sooner Girl Pod on all platforms. But if you want to find out that up-to-date, minute-to-minute information like the draft and things like that, Twitter or X is the place to be. Also, my Instagram stories and Facebook stories is where you're going to get a lot of that information. Also, our former punter, Luke Elzinga, received a minicamp invite from the Chicago Bears and the Titans, and I believe I saw where he accepted that invite to the Titans, so that's super cool for him. So best of luck to our Sooners going on to the next level. It's always so cool. Never take that for granted. It doesn't matter what round they're drafted in. Just to fall in that top percentage of athletes who would give anything to play in a professional league of their sport. It's incredible, you guys. I know it's to be a number 1 pick, a first rounder, like us Sooners are pretty spoiled to that, and that's incredible. But let's not take it for granted. These guys, it really means nothing less to be drafted further down the list. I mean, look at Tom Brady, Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Like, you get your shot and you take it. And I have no doubt that these guys are going to do that. There is not much news on the basketball front or the gymnastics front since those seasons have wrapped up. For baseball, our guys traveled to Georgia this past weekend for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. Dayton Taki had a left ankle injury. He does have a hairline fracture, and he is going to miss the rest of the regular season. After we took game 1, we lost the series in Athens. We're hoping that Dayton Taki could possibly be ready by the postseason, so fingers crossed for that. Next up for the guys is Wichita State midweek in Norman, which will actually be completed by the time this episode drops. And we have a weekend series versus Ole Miss. So hopefully we can rebound with that and get ready for the postseason because it is rapidly coming for our Diamond Sports. I just want to remind everybody about Bedlam Soccer. It was announced that it will be in Norman on Sunday, August the 17th. Now, I did get that information from OSU as the Big 12 released their soccer schedules. And I just want to throw that out there because, well, you all know that Bedlam is pretty important to our household. But again, I'm encouraging you guys to support those sports that often get overlooked and those athletes and people behind the scenes that often get overlooked. Soccer is definitely one of those. And so their schedule will be coming out in the next month, I believe. And I'm going to be catching up with soccer coach Matt Mott here in the next little bit myself, and I will have him on the show. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm planning to attend a couple of soccer meets coming up this summer. And I realize, y'all, it starts in August. It's hot, okay? But Bedlam's important for my household. And so we have got it on the calendar, Sunday, August 17th in Norman, Bedlam Soccer. Mark it down. I would love to see you there. Our wrestling guys had 9 athletes sent to the U.S. Open Wrestling Championship in Vegas this weekend. That has not concluded at the time of my recording, so I'm not sure how they all finished, but it's pretty cool that we sent 9 of our guys to the championship. Our volleyball team has been playing this weekend at the SMU Dallas Power Invite. Again, I apologize, I don't have the results of that at the time of my recording, but another plug for social media. I follow all of these teams and I share their content on mine, which is at Sooner Girl Pod on all platforms. Give me a follow and you can get all the things in comprehensive in one spot. Same for our tennis. Our men's and women's selection show is actually going to be on Monday, the 28th, which by the time this episode drops, it will have already been announced. So again, check social media for the updates. Twitter or X and Facebook, Instagram stories are where that information is going to be found, not only just from me, but by the teams as well. So by the time this episode drops, we will know how our tennis guys and gals will fall in the postseason. And I'm super excited to follow them because they are incredible and I'm really hoping the best for them. Track and field, we have several women's events in the top 10 and several men's events in the top 5. They just competed this past week at the Michael Johnson Invitational, the Mount Sac Relays, and the Brian Clay Invitational. We had 3 school records, 15 top 10 performances, 6 marks in the top 16 of the NCAA, 12 marks in the top 8 of the SEC, 31 marks in the top 48 of the West region, and 41 personal records. And I know I've said this before, and I don't want to just skate over some of these sports and teams that a lot of people don't follow or don't know a lot about. I'm not trying to undermine anybody. I truly follow all OU sports. OU plays it, I follow it. Lacrosse, all of it. And so again, I try to share all of that information on my social media, but following all the teams yourself on their social media is a great way to support them and sharing that information. Track is one of those, same with golf. Like there's a lot happening from minute to minute, day to day with all of the different events and everything. And so the best way to keep up with that is on social media for sure. And again, I do share a lot of that material on my personal social media at Sooner Girl Pod. So if you want to just follow one thing to get a lot of information, that's where I would appreciate the follow from you guys there. Our golf guys, they finished in the quarterfinal of the SEC, and our women are a number 6 seed. We will be hosting the Norman Regional on May the 5th through the 7th, and you can volunteer to help at the Jimmy Austin Golf Course. So if you're in the area and want to help out, you might just hop on Soonersports.com and check out that information for the women's golf team hosting regionals. I'm very excited for them. And if you missed my episode with OU women's golfer Reagan Cheney just a couple of weeks ago, now would be a great time to catch up and gear up for their postseason. My Sooner fun fact of the week is in 2014, Stacey Dales was the first OU women's basketball player to have her number, which was number 21, retired at the Lloyd Noble Center. So how cool is that? Like Stacey Dales, she is an incredible Sooner. She is a sports broadcaster now. So I love following her on social media and seeing all of her adventures. So shout out to Stacey Dales. Incredible, incredible athlete, incredible Sooner, and I'm thankful that she is ours. My Sooner MVP of the week, my goodness, I could go so many directions with this. And I hate to go with the low-hanging fruit sometimes, but I'm going to go with Kirsten Deal. And I know I really went off about her just a little bit ago talking about softball, but I cannot tell you how bad she needed that game in the circle against Texas and how much we needed her to have that game in the circle against Texas. And she delivered. She delivered, and it was an incredible performance by Kirsten Deal. So Kirsten, take your flowers, girl. Take a bow because you deserve it, and you are my Sooner MVP of the week, if that means anything to anyone. It does to me. So thank you guys for listening again this week. I cannot thank you enough. If you pressed play for the first time and made it through all of this, thank you so much. If you are listening again, thank you so much for coming back. I hope that you share and invite a friend to come along and listen with you next week. I have a lot of great episodes coming up this summer with track and field coach James Thomas, soccer coach Matt Mott, a women's tennis coach Audra Cohen. I have a women's hockey player that will be dropping soon, Corey Matthew, I believe. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her last name correct. I'm actually recording with her this week, so I need to get the correct pronunciation of her name before her episode drops. And I will be recording a softball episode going into the postseason with Kelly Bright, former OU shortstop. We'll be recording with her in the next couple of weeks, and so be looking forward to that one. So follow me again on all social media at Sooner Girl Pod everywhere to keep up with all the things. If you want episodes and big announcements sent to your inbox for free, you can go check out my Substack. If you're interested, I also have merch. I have tees, hoodies, sweatshirts, hats, tank tops for summer, stickers. I even have koozies and visors. So please go check that out if you're interested in supporting the pod. And just please go like and follow and subscribe and download the episodes. It truly helps me so much just having your follow and your likes on social media and your downloads and listens on all of the podcast apps. It truly means a lot. Girls, I would love to have you come join the huddle in my locker room. It's my $5 a month girl group that we have. We have the best time. If you want to know more about that, you can shoot me a message or check out my social media. You can find everything linked in the show notes, and it's all on my link tree, which again, I will link in the show notes. So thank you guys so much for listening today. I'm still hyped up. I imagine I probably will be for a while after that Texas sweep, because boy howdy, nothing's better than that. Horns down always, baby. Boomer Sooner, cheer like a champion. I will see you all next Wednesday where we talk sports.